Hello and welcome back to your 30-second Django tutorial. Today's tutorial, we're going to go ahead and set up the models and the admin for our actual newsletter. We were, in the previous tutorials, getting the users to sign up and unsubscribe, and we're shooting them a short little message to welcome or say goodbye. But in this tutorial, we also want the feature, I should say, to be able to send a newsletter whenever we want. So we got to create a model for that and the admin section. Now, I want to let you know that in this group of tutorials when we're creating a newsletter, we're actually going to start creating our admin backend, but that's not Django's admin backend. We're actually going to call it like the control panel, if you will, so we don't confuse it with the admin panel. So we'll call it the control panel. All right, it's actually going to be where the admin can log in and control the site from back there without logging into Django's admin. It will be separate from the users area. So that's what we're going to work on. I'm going to try to remember to call it control panel because it does get confusing. When I work, I create these all the time, but when I'm working, I always just call it the admin panel, and that gets confusing to some people, even my coworkers. So what we're going to do is call it control panel if I can try to do that. Anyhow, let's go ahead and open up your models.py. We can get rid of all these HTML and text documents if you got them open. Just go ahead and close them out. We don't need views right now. We're going to need models and admin.py. Alright. So in the models, we're going to go ahead and create our model. It's a fairly simple model. So let's go ahead and create a class. And spell class correctly. We're going to call it newsletter since it's actually a newsletter. And we're just going to do models.model, capital M. And in here we're going to have two choices. Alright, so our newsletter can be draft or publish. So that way, if it's a draft, we're not sending it. If it's published, we do send it. So I'll just call this email underscore status underscore choices. It's equal to a tuple. And in there is going to be another tuple, and that's going to have draft, comma, draft again. And then now here we make a comma, and then we'll do published, comma, published. Alright, so that's going to be our choices. Right now, they don't do anything because we got to actually add them to a field, but that's how we incorporate it into a field. So we'll do that shortly. Next thing we need is, if you remember in our emails, we needed a subject and a body, so we're going to create them. So we'll do subject first. Subject is equal to models.char field. Alright. And char field, if you remember correctly, takes one argument, and that a required argument, I should say. It takes several arguments if you want, but one required, and that's max length. Alright, and we'll just set 250. Next one is going to be body, and we'll do models.text field because text field holds unlimited number of characters, or until the database takes a crap on you, but it does hold a lot of data. So we'll use text field since our newsletters could be very long. Next one we're going to do is email. Now some users on YouTube asked me to show the many-to-many field, so here it comes. Models.many-to-many field. Alright, and we're going to tie that into our newsletter user up here, so newsletter user. And the reason why we chose, I should say, many-to-many field is because we can have many newsletters and many newsletter users. So if you have many of one thing and a many of another thing, then you use many-to-many field. Now with foreign key, which is many-to-one or one-to-many, however you want to say, field, we could have, if we did this as a foreign key, we could have many emails to one many newsletters to one email. Alright, and that doesn't work in our case because we want to send this email to everybody that's in our newsletter user group. All right, and we can have multiple newsletters that go out. So we need to use the menu field. All right, you'll see how this all works more as we move on to the views and everything else. But here's the menu field. All right. Next thing we're going to do is incorporate our status. So status is equal to models.char field, and we'll set the character max length to 10, and then we're going to set choices as our other argument. No, I'm in trouble talking. To email status choices, so that incorporates our status choices up here. All right. Next thing we want to do is we're going to have a timestamp for create it. So we'll do create it is equal to models.date time field, and we'll set this to auto now add. Yeah, auto now add, true. I had to think about it for a second, confused myself. And let's do an updated as well. So updated equals models.date time field, and we'll do auto now is equal to true. So what's the difference? I know I explained this before, but auto now add only sets the time the object is created, and update it anytime it's saved, the object is resaved, it takes a timestamp of that. So update it. All right. Now, as of right now, we're not going to go ahead and set up absolute URL. I don't think we're going to need it. So, I mean, in the back end, we do want to visit our newsletter, like a detailed view, but we're not going to do it with get absolute URL. We'll just do it with like a primary key or something. So we don't need that. It doesn't need to be SEO friendly, so we'll just skip that for now. So let's just define our string here, and we'll just return self dot subject. All right. So that's our model as of right now. I really haven't planned this out, so I'm just kind of shooting from the hip here. But that's what I'm going for. I think that will work. We might have to come back and change it. Who knows? Anyhow, that is it. And this should be 2. This should be 2 to comply with PEP 8. And there we go. All right, now to your admin. Let's go ahead and import our model that we just created. So, oops, comma, newsletter. There you go. And down here we'll register it. So admin.site.register newsletter. There we go. And that is it. That we set up the models. We set up the admin section. We can change the admin section around if you want, but eventually I'm not even going to be using this whatsoever. Really, only the owner of the site or the developers should have access to it, I believe. So that's why I don't even really mess with it. I just set it up so I can test it. But let's go ahead and go to our admin section. Newsletters, home. Now we should see newsletters, so we click on that. And, oh, we forgot to migrate our database. So let's do Python manage.py make migrations. So we're setting up the migrations. There we go, and then Python manage.py migrate, and then we make the migrations. Then we run Python manage.py, run server. And now we go back and refresh. There we go. All right, so we had a new newsletter. We got our subject, we got our body, we got our email. Now, if you have multiple emails here, you can select them by holding Control or Command and select more than one. All right, we just hit the add button. You can add more if you'd like that way. But I highly suggest you don't add them through the admin. You let your users add the email address. Then we just set the status. Oh, lost my mouse. So we can set the status. Are you serious? I just replaced these batteries. So there we go. To draft and published. Alright. So there you go. That's our admin and model section for our newsletter. Next tutorial, we'll start working on the views and we'll start building a control panel backend for our administration. Until then, I'll see you.